Something's happening on football pitches all over the world. A new kind of player is being forged in the fires of the modern game. They are faster, smarter, and way more versatile than anything we've ever seen before. But they're also being pushed right to the edge, to their absolute limits. So in this explainer, we're going to break down the evolution of the modern footballer. This is the story of the player of 2026. This one sentence, it just nails it. It perfectly captures who this new player is. They're hybrid because they have to be good at everything. They're autonomous because they're designed to think for themselves on the fly. And they're fragile because they are constantly at risk of being broken by a game that just demands too much. And this gets us to the core problem, right? The central paradox of modern football. On one hand, the game itself operates like an algorithm. It's all about superhuman demands, tactical complexity, everything driven by data. But on the other hand, the players, well, they're still human. They have real biological limits. It's a fundamental clash between the machine and the body.
Okay, so how are players actually dealing with this? Well, they're basically mutating. A whole new species of footballer is emerging, right here, right now, right in front of our eyes. This right here shows a huge shift in how we even think about a player's role. Gone is the old idea of a player just guarding their little patch of grass. Today, every single player is more like a node in a living, breathing network that's constantly moving and reorganizing itself.
So what's the fallout from this new network model? Well, for one thing, it means the specialist is basically going extinct. Being really, really good at just one thing, it's just not enough to cut it at the highest level anymore. This whole idea of positionless football, yeah, it came over from the NBA. It's totally taken over. Teams aren't looking for a right back anymore. They're looking for a versatile profile who can defend, who can attack, who can drift into midfield. And get this, the physical data is just insane. High-intensity runs are up 30%. Sprinting demands have nearly doubled since the 2000s. There is literally nowhere to hide on the pitch. Need a perfect example? Look no further than someone like Riccardo Calafiori. You can watch him in a game and see him play as a center back, then pop up as a midfielder, and then suddenly he's a winger, all in the span of maybe 10 minutes. That's not a mistake. That's the hybrid player in the flesh.
You've probably heard this quote from Ralph Rangnick, right? It perfectly explains the mindset behind all this. The modern high press is an all-in system. And if everyone has to give 100% to the press, then everyone, I'm talking from the striker all the way back to the center back, has to become a hybrid player capable of that relentless, non-stop intensity.
But there's a problem, a huge one. This relentless demand is creating a crisis. The tactical ambitions of the coaches are smashing right into the hard limits of the human body. We've hit a biological wall, and the cracks are really starting to show. 15%. Think about that number for a second. A 2025 report from FIFPRO found that in 15% of elite matches, the players are running on less than 40% of their nervous capacity. That means their bodies might be on the pitch, but their brains, they're just completely gassed. And this is leading to what people are now calling watered-down football. You can see it in the data. Pressing intensity just nosedives after about the 50-minute mark. The quality of scoring chances, the expected goals, it drops off too. The game itself, the spectacle, is actually getting worse because the players are so exhausted. And this is where that question from Manchester City's Rodri really hit home. It became a huge turning point. It's not just a medical question anymore. It's an existential one for the entire sport. At what point does the beautiful game just become a total fake? So, because of this crisis, something had to give. And it did. Teams now rely on a daily bioscore to track just how fatigued their players are. And if that score is too low, the whole tactical plan, the high press, everything, it gets thrown right out the window. Physiology now has veto power over philosophy. Biology gets the final say. Okay, so if you can't micromanage a player who's totally exhausted, what's the alternative? You empower them. You have to delegate intelligence. And that's exactly what's led to the rise of player autonomy. And this means the coach's job is changing, like fundamentally. We're moving away from the old model of the coach as the architect, the guy who dictates every single move. The new model is the coach as a mirror, or maybe like a dashboard. They're there to amplify the decisions the players are already making, to ask the right questions, and to help them make sense of the game that they are creating themselves in real time. So if you want to create these super smart, autonomous players, you can't train them the old way, right? The training itself has had to evolve, and the focus is shifting away from just preparing the body to preparing the mind. One of the keys here is training what you could call the player's internal radar. The best players use a scanning method, like bots. They check the ball, the opponents, their teammates, and the space, all in the split second before they even get the ball. In a game this fast, that mental speed is what separates the good from the great. And the training drills themselves are getting a total reboot. Positional games aren't just about passing. They teach the brain to be flexible. These neuromotor rondos train players to read and intercept an opponent's intention, not just their pass. And there's even this idea of anti-resulting, where young players are judged on the quality of their decision, not just whether the shot went in. It's all about building a smarter, more adaptable brain. So what does this all add up to? Well, the player of 2026 is basically what the philosopher Edgar Morin called a non-trivial machine. Now, what does that mean? It means they're not a simple robot where input A always gets you output B. No, they're a complex, creative system that can take a totally broken play, something unexpected, and transform it into a moment of pure genius. And that leaves us with this one really fascinating question to chew on. In a sport that's so dominated by data, by algorithms and by tactics, when the body is completely exhausted and the coach's master plan has fallen apart, is that unpredictable spark of human genius the only real tactic we have left?